Sarah Martinez stared at her phone, her hands shaking as she read. The text again, $10,000 for one night. The boldness of it made her stomach twist. But the worst part was the name at the bottom, Marcus Williams, her husband David's best friend since college, the guy who was best man at their wedding, the godfather to their 7-year-old daughter Emma, the man who just offered to pay for her, like she was something for sale. Her phone slipped from her fingers onto the kitchen counter. As she grabbed the marble edge trying to steady herself outside, the autumn rain pounded against the windows of their suburban home, matching the mess in her heart. How had things gotten to this point 3 months earlier? Sarah believed she had the perfect life. She and David had been married for 9 years, and their relationship had become a comfy routine. She convinced herself that was just how things go. The hot kisses had turned into fast pecks goodbye. The deep late-night chats were now just scrolling on phones in bed, and romantic surprises were as rare as snow in July. But they were stable, they were a team, they were fine. Marcus had always been in their lives, tall, charming, with an easy smile and confidence that lit up a room. He was the opposite of David, where David was careful and thought things through. Marcus was quick and daring, where David liked quiet nights in. Marcus chased adventure and excitement. "You're so lucky to have David," her friends would say. "He's such a good man." And he was. David took care of the family, never yelled, helped with chores, and was a loving dad to Emma. He was the type of husband any woman should appreciate. So why did Sarah feel so hollow inside? The first sign of trouble came during Marcus's divorce 6 months ago. His wife Natalie left him for another man, taking half of what he had built. Marcus was crushed and spent many evenings at their house, finding comfort in David's friendship and Sarah's home-cooked dinners. "I just don't get how 20 years can mean nothing," Marcus said one evening, his voice full of pain and sadness. "How can someone you love just stop loving you back?" Sarah felt his hurt like a pain in her own chest. She knew that feeling of not being loved, of being overlooked, even though her marriage looked solid on the outside. That night after David went to bed early with a headache, Sarah and Marcus sat on the back porch, sharing a bottle of wine under the stars. They talked about dreams they had put on hold, about the pressure of what people expect, and about feeling alone. "Even when you're with someone, you're wasted on him. You know," Marcus said softly, his eyes meeting hers in the dim light. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. "Marcus, don't." "I'm sorry," he said, quickly looking away. "The wine is talking. Forget I said anything." But Sarah couldn't forget those words, planted a seed that grew, fed by every time David took her for granted. Every night he fell asleep without even touching her hand. Every moment she wondered what it would be like to be wanted like before. Over the following weeks, Marcus's visits got more common. He would stop by during the day when David was at work, always with an excuse like needing to borrow a tool, wanting to check on Emma, or bringing extra groceries. Sarah knew she should stop these visits, but she looked forward to them with a guilty excitement. Marcus saw her in ways David had forgotten. He noticed her new dress, praised her cooking, asked about her dream to go back to art school. He listened when she spoke, really listened, his dark eyes fixed on her face, like her words were the most important thing ever. "You're glowing lately," her sister Lisa said during their weekly coffee. "What's your secret?" Sarah laughed it off, but inside she knew Marcus was making her feel alive again, helping her remember who she was before she was just David's wife and Emma's mom. The big turning point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Emma was at a friend's house. David was working late and Sarah was in her art room, the small basement space David had let her set up, not too happily working on a painting she started weeks ago, but never finished. Marcus knocked on the door, wet from the rain, holding coffee from her favorite cafe. "Thought you might need some fuel for your masterpiece," he said with that smile that made her heart race. He stayed for 3 hours watching her paint, asking thoughtful questions about her methods, what inspired her, and her dreams. No one had shown real interest in her art since college. When she stepped back to look at her work, she felt him behind her, warm and close. "It's beautiful," He whispered, his breath tickling her ear. "You're beautiful." Sarah turned to him, and for a second the air between them sparked with energy. His hand touched her cheek, and she leaned into it, craving that affection, that warmth, that feeling of being desired. But then Emma's voice called from upstairs, "Mom, I'm home," and the moment shattered. Marcus stepped back, running a hand through his dark hair, looking as rattled as she felt. "I should go," he said, grabbing his jacket. "Marcus, this can't happen. You know that, right?" She nodded, but her heart yelled no. That night, as David snored next to her, she stared at the ceiling, wondering when her life had turned into a prison she made herself. The text message came on a Tuesday morning, 2 weeks after the art room moment. David had left for a business trip to Chicago, and Emma was at school. Sarah was folding laundry, caught in the boring flow of home life when her phone buzzed. "Sarah, I know this is crazy, but I can't stop thinking about you. I'm losing my mind. I need to see you, hold you, show you how a woman like you deserves to be treated. I'm offering $10,000 for one night together. I know it sounds bad, but I'm desperate. You're everything I've ever wanted, and I can't hide it anymore. Please think about it." Marcus, the laundry basket dropped from her numb hands, clothes scattering on the bedroom floor. $10,000, the amount was huge, insulting, and somehow flattering all at once. More money than she had ever seen, enough to clear their credit card debt fund, her art school return, give her the freedom she craved. But it also made her feel like something to buy and sell. The strong woman in her was angry, but the lonely, ignored wife felt a weird kind of boost. Someone wanted her enough to pay. Someone saw her worth that her own husband had forgotten. Sarah sank onto the bed, the phone heavy in her hands. She thought of David, likely in some plain conference room, focused on work reports more than his wife fading away in their marriage. She thought of Emma, so innocent, believing her parents' love was something to aim for, and she thought of Marcus, hurting and desperate, offering a way out of her dull life. The smart part of her brain yelled to delete the message, block his number, act like it never happened, but the hurt, forgotten part of her heart whispered she deserved to feel wanted, alive, important. Her fingers hovered over the keys, writing and erasing many replies. Finally, she typed just 2 words, "I'm listening, Marcus." Reply came quick, like he was waiting by his phone. "Can we meet somewhere public just to talk? I need to explain." They chose a small cafe on the other side of town, away from places where they might see friends. Sarah spent an hour getting ready, changing outfits 3 times, picking a simple blue dress that made her eyes pop. She told herself it was just to be polite, but deep down she wanted to look pretty for him. Marcus was already there in a corner booth, looking as nervous as she felt he stood when he saw her, and for a moment they just stared, the unsaid feelings heavy between them. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly, as she sat across from him. "I almost didn't, but I did." His eyes searched her face. "That has to mean something." Sarah held her coffee cup, the warmth helping her stay steady. "Marcus, what you offered, it's not who I'm not that kind of person." "I know that," he cut in. "God, Sarah, I know you think I don't see what kind of woman you are devoted to. Your family, good, pure, perfect. Then why?" "Because I'm sinking," he said, his voice cracking a bit. "Every night I go to my empty house and think of you in bed with him. It kills me. I've been in love with you for 2 years, and I can't pretend anymore." The words hit her hard. 2 years. He had carried this for 2 years, watching her marriage from afar, wanting what David didn't value. The money, he went on, his face turning red. "I know how it sounds, but I thought if I made it worth it, offered something to help, maybe you'd think about it. You talked about going back to school, and David says you can't afford it. I thought I could give you what your husband want, freedom, a choice, a chance to do something for you." Sarah looked at their hands, joined his warm skin on her cold fingers, the touch sending sparks up her arm, reminding her of feelings she almost forgot. "And the night together," she whispered, "because I need to know." He said plainly, "What it's like to hold you, love you the way you deserve, even if it's just once, even if it breaks me." After the honest rawness in his voice made her eyes tear up. When was the last time someone spoke to her with such fire, such need? When had she felt like the center of someone's world? I need to think, she said at last. He nodded, letting go of her hand. Take all the time you need. But Sarah, whatever you choose, know you're amazing. You're worth way more than the life you're in. As she drove home, his words repeated, you're worth so much more than the life you're living. Was that true? Had she accepted less than she deserved, mixed up steady with happy duty, with love? That evening, David called from his hotel. Their talk lasted only 5 minutes before his client dinner. He didn't ask about her day, didn't hear the stress in her voice, didn't care if she needed more than just keeping things running while he was gone. Sarah sat in the empty kitchen, Marcus's words on loop, wondering if this was all her life was meant to be. For the next 3 days, Sarah felt like she was floating through life. She did her usual stuff, making breakfast, dropping Emma at school, shopping, cooking dinner, but her thoughts were stuck between her safe, unhappy world and the risky promise of more. She looked at herself in mirrors, wondering what Marcus saw in her at 32. She was still pretty, but the light in her eyes had faded to a tiny glow. When had she stopped caring? When had she accepted being unseen? On Thursday evening, David came back from his trip, tired and distracted, telling stories about meetings and hotels that all sounded the same. He kissed her cheek without thinking and asked, "What's for dinner?" sitting in his chair with his laptop. Before she could reply, "How was your trip?" Sarah asked, standing in the doorway. "Productive," he said, not looking up from his screen. "Jenkins thinks we might get the Morrison account." "That's nice." She waited for him to ask about her week, Emma's play practice, anything important to her. The quiet grew until it was clear the talk was done that night. As David looked at emails next to her in bed, Sarah decided she didn't text Marcus right away. Instead, she stayed awake until he was deep asleep, then went quietly to her art room in the dark quiet, surrounded by her old paintings and dusty stands. She let herself picture a new life, feeling, desired, being someone's main thing, mattering beyond just home tasks. She pictured Marcus's hands on her, his voice saying her name like a wish, his eyes seeing her as a woman, not just a wife and mom. The dream mixed guilt and want. She was a good person, right? Good people don't have affairs, don't take money to sleep with their husband's best friend, don't leave their family for one night of heat. But good people also don't deserve to feel so empty, forgotten, totally alone in their own world. At 2 a.m., she got back in bed and grabbed her phone. Her fingers typed almost on their own. "Saturday night, Emma is at my sister's. David has poker. Your place, but this isn't about the money, Marcus. It's about me choosing to feel alive." Just once she sent it before she could rethink, then lay in the dark, a heart beating loud like thunder. Saturday came covered in autumn fog like the weather showed her mixed up thoughts. Sarah went through the day like she was half asleep, her moves not matching her mind. She packed Emma's bag carefully, made David's favorite lunch, though he hardly noticed, and tried to push away how her hands shook thinking of the night ahead. "You seem off today," Lisa said when she picked up Emma. "Everything okay, just tired," Sarah lied, hugging her daughter close, smelling her sweet strawberry shampoo. For a second, the huge weight of what she was doing almost broke her. Emma trusted her, saw her as a role model. What kind of example was this? But then David yelled from the living room, "Sarah, see my lucky poker chips?" The same question every Saturday, like they ever moved from the drawer, and her strength came back. Lucky chips for a guy who took his real luck for granted by 7. David left for his poker game, kissing her forehead without care, reminding her to record his crime show. Sarah watched his car lights fade in the fog, wondering if this was the last normal bit of their marriage. She told Marcus she'd be there at 8, giving her an hour to change, have a drink for bravery, tell herself this was right, or at least felt right for her. The blue dress from the cafe worked again, but now with lingerie she bought years ago for an anniversary. Never used. David liked things quick, even closeness. The lace felt odd on her skin, like armor for a fight. She wasn't sure she wanted at 7:45. She sat in her car in the driveway, engine on, gripping the Wheel she could still back out text Marcus. An excuse go in. Take a bath, pretend none of this happened. Instead, she backed out. Marcus's townhouse was modern with clean lines and fancy furniture. His ex-wife picked Sarah, had been there many times for. Parties always as a couple, always as David's wife, going alone with secret plans, felt like entering another world he opened the door before. She knocked like he was watching. He looked different, more open than ever, his usual sureness gone replaced. By fear you came. He said softly, I said I would. They stood the doorway, feeling like the edge of a cliff, stepping in meant. No turning back. Crossing that line would make her a cheater, someone who broke promises for one night of feeling needed Sarah. Marcus said gently, if you've changed your mind. I haven't. The words came out strong. But I need you to get this. It's not about the money. I don't want it, Marcus. I want to remember who I was before I became invisible. He moved aside to let her in his. Hands shaking too. What happened in Marcus's townhouse that night was everything. Sarah dreamed, and nothing like she thought. There was passion. A deep, needy want that reminded her. She was a woman with desires beyond homework. Marcus touched her like she was treasure, looked at her like she was stunning, whispered her name like it was holy for a few hours. She felt like the heart of someone's world, but after lying in his arms, hearing the rain start against his bedroom, Window's guilt hit her like a cold wave. This great hurting man who just loved her better than her husband had in years was still. David's best friend Emma called him uncle. Marcus, they had to act like nothing changed when everything felt new. I should go. She whispered in me. Dark stay, Marcus said against her hair, just till morning. Let me pretend you're mine a bit longer. But Sarah pulled away, grabbing her clothes, trying to put herself together. In every way the dream was done. Real life waited at home. Her marriage, her daughter, her world that had to go on like that night. Never was. This was a mistake, she said, not fully believing it, but needing to build walls to shield from what she did know. Marcus said, strong, sitting up, taking her hand. Don't do that, don't make what we had cheap, it was real. Sarah, this was selfish, she cut in, pulling on her dress with shaky fingers. This was me being weak and dumb, and this was you being human. His voice was strong. Now making her look, this was you seeing, you deserve better than being ignored forever. Sarah's phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from David asking if she recorded his show. The everyday normalness slapped her, reminding her of the life she betrayed for hours of feeling alive. She got home by midnight, sneaking in like a thief, every floor creak sounding like blame. David was still at poker. He never came back before 2 on Saturdays, but the house felt changed, like her cheating left a mark on the walls. She showered till the water was cold but couldn't rinse away Marcus's touch or how he looked at her, like she was worth it all. The next few weeks were a blur of guilt and mix-up. Sarah dove into perfect home life like a clean house and fancy dinners could fix her betrayal. She took on extra jobs at Emma's school, joined every group to keep her mind off Marcus. But Marcus didn't fade. He texted every day, not pushing but softly reminding. He was there. Their night meant a lot to him. His feelings were the same, thinking of you. He wrote, hope you're painting again. Saw this article on art therapy, thought you'd like it. You looked beautiful at the grocery store yesterday. Wanted to tell you, but David was there. Each text poked her heart, reminding of their bond and the mess they made. She wanted to say stop, delete his number, pretend he wasn't real. But she read his messages again and again like notes from a life. She couldn't have the big break. Came 3 weeks later at Emma's school play. The whole family was there. Sarah, David, and Marcus, who never missed Emma's shows. They sat together in the auditorium, like always, Marcus between David and Sarah, their knees brushing in the tight seats, every touch like a spark, every quiet word he said about Emma's acting felt close, making Sarah's chest tight with want and worry when Emma forgot her lines and Marcus squeezed Sarah's hand to comfort her. She felt like everyone could see her secret after the play, in the lobby praising Emma and talking to parents. David stepped away for a work call Marcus got. closer, his hand lightly on her back, leaning to her ear. She was great up there. He said, his breath warm on her skin. You should be proud, I am Sarah. Said, feeling every bit of how close he was, how her body reacted, even as her mind said no. Sarah. He added softer, we need to talk really about what now, before she could answer. David came back, putting his phone away. Sorry about that crisis at work. Everything okay? Marcus asked, moving back, but his eyes stayed on Sarah. Nothing I can't fix Monday. David said, ready to go home. Emma looks tired as they walked to the cars. Sarah felt split in two worlds, the outside one, where she was a good wife and mom, and the hidden one, where she was torn between what she should do and what she wanted between her current life and one she craved that night. After Emma slept and David watched his football game, Sarah finally answered Marcus's text. We can't talk, we can't do this anymore. What happened was a mistake, it can't happen again. Please don't contact me unless it's for David. His reply came fast. I get you're scared. I get the guilt, but don't call it a mistake. What we had was the realest thing I've felt in years. I know you felt it too. Sarah stared at the words till they blurred with her tears. He was right. And that made it worse. She had felt that link, that fire, that being seen and wanted. But feeling it didn't make it okay. Wanting it didn't make it work. She shut off her phone without answering, thinking quiet would end what they began. She was wrong. 2 months later, Sarah's careful walls fell in the worst way. She was in her art room painting again. Marcus was right that night, woke up her creative side she thought was gone when David's voice called from upstairs. Sarah, come up, we need to talk. His tone chilled her. She found him at the kitchen table, her phone in his hands. Marcus's info on the screen. Your phone kept buzzing. David said calmly, I thought it was an emergency with Emma at Lisa's. Imagine my shock seeing tons of messages from my best friend, messages that show a clear picture of what my wife has been up to. Sarah's legs buckled. She sat across from him, her world spinning. David, I can explain, can you? He looked at her, his eyes showing deep, tired sadness, not anger. Can you explain how my wife and best friend betrayed me so deeply, how the two I trusted most didn't think of me before ruining my life? His pain hit hard, despite their issues, their marriage growing cold and far. David didn't deserve this, didn't deserve the shock from those who should love him most. I felt invisible. Sarah whispered the words, not enough. But true, like I didn't matter to you anymore. Like I was just there. Marcus made me feel alive, David said bitterly. Important, desired all I wasn't giving you. Yes, she said, tears falling. I know it doesn't excuse it. I should have talked to you, tried to fix us before. I had an affair, took money from my best friend to sleep with him. David's calm broke, his voice louder. $10,000. Sarah, he offered that, and you agreed I didn't take the money, she said fast, like it helped. I told him no. Oh, well, that fixes everything. David said, me, my wife just slept with my best friend for free. So kind. They sat quiet, the broken trust heavy. Finally, David spoke. Empty of called, Marcus, our friendship is done. And have called the lawyer, I'll file for divorce next week. David, please. Sarah reached, but he pulled away. No, he said strong, we're done. Sarah, we've been done a while. I just didn't see it. As Sarah watched her husband, soon ex, walk out of the kitchen and upstairs to pack, she saw Marcus was right and wrong. She did deserve more than her old life. But the cost was bigger than she thought. She thought of Emma, now splitting time between homes, growing up, knowing her parents couldn't keep it together. Thought of friends they'd lose, family events, change their groups, split by sides and choices. And thought of Marcus, whose deep love cost his best friend and gave her freedom she wanted but never knew would feel like dropping outside. Rain fell again, cleaning the windows of their home, where a family once was dreams. Shared love enough. Some mistakes can't be fixed, some lines cross, change everything forever. And sometimes the cost of feeling alive is living with that choice. Always Sarah's story wasn't a happy tale. It was a warning about wanting more versus asking for it, feeling ignored versus choosing to betray, dreaming of escape versus facing a new start. But as she sat in the empty kitchen, hearing the rain and David packing upstairs, she realized she was still breathing. Despite the pain, guilt, and broken bits of her old life, she was here, and maybe that was enough to make something new from the mess. The phone buzzed again, likely Marcus, asking if she was okay, if he could help, if their night was worth breaking all they cared about. Sarah turned it face down without looking, and went to the window, watching the rain clean the world, knowing tomorrow she'd start learning to live with who she had become.